What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
When we begin to discuss or think about how his remains were treated, more consideration is given in the death of a prisoner.
I was going to say a crackhead.
Yeah, than was given to the President of the United States. Because, he was a father to his children. He was a husband to his wife, but he was our president. He was our president, elected by the people. And the fact that, and there's so many examples of how dismissive the people in charge were relative to the remains. And let me kind of back to this idea of a prisoner. Let's just say, for instance, if someone dies in custody, and I've participated in a number of autopsies involving, in custody deaths. I've actually participated in the autopsy of individuals that have died as a result of lethal injection. The examination that is conducted on those individuals where you have a known cause of death is so extensive, everything ranging from full body x-rays to a dissection that if I went into it right now, I don't think that most people would believe that we do this in the morgue, where you're not just opening the body first off, you're not just doing an external examination on the body and photographing the body very thoroughly, but you're also doing not just an internal examination anteriorly, which means opening the chest and opening the head. You literally flip the person over and you open their back. You cut down the backs of their arms. You open up the palms of their hands. You cut down the backs of their legs. Did you know you even dissect the soles of their feet? And that's to see if they've been injured in any way at the hands of those individuals that are in charge of them.
How do they put this back together?
Generally, you don't. You allow the mortician to do it. But that's something that's something that is common practice for a prisoner. But yet the Kennedy autopsy was not even a complete autopsy.
No.
It was what's referred to as a limited dissection, which in and of itself is striking because it is at its root. John F. Kennedy's death was a homicide. When you distill it down, it's as basic as it gets. We've got 5 manners of death: homicide, suicide, accidental, natural, and undetermined. You don't have a 6th choice. It's a homicide. That's simply what it was. And up until, I don't know, I guess it was a year? It was 2 years after the president was assassinated, was murdered in public. There was no law in the books that made it illegal to kill a president.
What?
Yeah, at the federal level. And so Congress enacted a law, I think it was in 1965.
But hold on. Someone murdering another human being, because regardless of his title, he's an American citizen.
There was not something that went specifically to the President of the United States occupying that spot at the federal level. That didn't happen until 1965. That's why it's so important to understand contextually what happened in Dallas, Texas that day. This was a homicide of an individual who occupied the space within Dallas County, Texas, in the city of Dallas. It was a homicide. I don't know how many other homicides they had that week, but I tell you this, if they had, they would have been taken to the morgue. They would have been taken to the autopsy suite. And a truly board-certified forensic pathologist would have done their autopsy, and his name was Dr. Earl Rose. And he would have done that autopsy, highly qualified, highly respected, but not in the case of Kennedy.
Was he the guy who and this has been shown in movies and stuff, I believe this was actually something that happened, who was like, you can't take that body. State of Texas law says it must remain here. And they're like, fuck you. And they took the body on the plane. That was him?
Yeah. And I'll give you one better than that.
Okay.
Dr. Rose was officed just outside the trauma room
Oh, so he's like there when his
at
body.
Parkland.
Oh my God.
He had an office there, and it's fascinating. He's actually a pretty fascinating character. He was the first person that truly was a medical examiner for Dallas. He had kind of come in and established himself in that role, which is fascinating to me, that he would be present. He was officed there or had a space there. And so when everything happened, he was kind of in the background, okay? And when it was called, when he was actually pronounced dead, he being our president, Dr. Rose was Johnny on the spot. He understood the complexity of this case because he's a forensic pathologist. This is bread and butter. This is what he has been trained to do, Julian.
Yeah.
And he's physically there. Just consider this for a moment, all right, if you will. I can't think of any major hospital in the United States right now, I might be wrong, where you have a representative of your local medical legal community that is actually officed just outside of the primary trauma center for that metropolitan area. I mean, where they're physically in the structure. He's there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's right there. And that's why I think that when he saw what was happening, his mind is going into overdrive at this point in time, because it's not just that the body is being touched by all of these people that have no business putting their hands on the remains, but he's thinking about considerations like clothing. Where's the clothing? What did they do to the clothing? Was the clothing actually, did they take a great big pair of scissors and run down the trousers and cut the jacket off and cut the shirt off? And did they just take it and kind of bundle it up or wad it up and throw it in the trash bin right there? Because he's thinking about that. He knows that there's potential for evidence to be contained in all of that. And he's seeing this being played out before him. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that, he comes across, or what people have said, kind of a mild-mannered guy. He's from the upper Midwest. I think he's actually from Iowa originally. But imagine this. You're witnessing all of this. This is what you do for a living. And you have the president's body, who at that moment in time, as cold as it sounds, is the biggest piece of evidence you have in this homicide case. It's literally about to be wheeled out of the door, to be removed from your control. And you're the one, he's thinking, well, I've got to sign this death certificate, because it would fall to him. This is a homicide. This is not something that the president's personal physician would sign, even though he did sign one, which is one of the biggest loads of garbage in this whole thing. They had 2 death certificates that were generated. This falls to the medical legal authority to actually render a death certificate and sign it after an examination has been facilitated. And just at a basic bureaucratic standpoint, a health department will not process a death certificate that is signed by a private physician that is trauma related. Okay. So I don't care if you've been in the hospital for, and this is the way it works now. If you've been in the hospital for, I don't know, for a gunshot wound, and you've been in a coma for however many months and you die, that's still a coroner case. It doesn't matter. And in this sense, this is an acute event that you're talking about here. This just happened. You can still smell the blood in the treatment room. But yet, here the body is going down the hallway. I understand why he would want to try to stop them. But from what has been stated over the years, I've heard people say everything from he was shouted at to he was pushed against the wall with their hands on their weapons. I don't know about you. I know that you've really interviewed some pretty intense people over the years, special operations people. I think that even for them in this situation, if you're faced with the full fury of law enforcement authorities, specifically the Secret Service, are you going to be big enough to stand up to them and say, no, we're talking about a physician. this guy is like a scientist. And he said that he finally just let them go because he didn't want to create any more of a disturbance. I guess maybe he thought, well, maybe the DA is going to hop in here and
They got this under control.
yeah, they're going to interdict this thing. But the next thing you know, they're off to Love Field.
Yeah.
And they're flying out, man.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.